We have Moh Ahmed dropping a 12:47 down the Portland track. Footage directly from Borman Track Club. I'll link down below to their YouTube channel so you can check out the original commentary. But let's take a look at Moh Ahmed's run here. He dropped a 12:47, really cementing himself as possibly one of the top 5,000 meter runners in the world. Right now, if you had to ask me, I would put some runners like Cheptegei, possibly Barega, Gebroet, Kajalsha, as some of those sort of top medal contenders for next year's Olympics at the 5,000 meters. But with this 12:47, it completely rewrites everything, and you have to start considering Moh Ahmed as a serious contender for one of those top medals. He already actually got, I think it was a bronze medal sometime last year at the World Championships, out-kicking people like Jacob Ingebrigtsen and some other pretty strong contenders there. But I think that was his first sort of coming out party in the world stage as someone that was a serious contender for medals. Previous to that, he had competed at the Olympic finals at the distance, but never really positioned in one of those top spots. So I think he's really on the up and up and about to sort of make his presence known to the 5,000 meter world. And this 12:47 really cements that. Besides Moh Ahmed's fantastic run here, we're also going to take a look at Lopez Lemong, who's right to the left on the screen from Moh Ahmed here. Lopez Lemong actually has a 5,000 meter personal best of 13 flat. This was run last year at the Portland 5,000, which is a pretty famous meet around the U.S. distance circuit. We had some pretty fast times. American Matthew Centrowitz also went 13 flat there, former gold medalist in the 1,500 meters. And out of all of these runners, actually we had Woody Kincaid, who's also in this race and acting as a pacer, go sub 13 at 12:58, becoming the 8th fastest 5,000 meter runner of all time in the U.S. So pretty interesting race last year, but I think this race is really geared towards helping Lopez Lemong get under that 13 flat barrier that he's been looking for a long time. So a lot of the pacing here is going to be geared towards that 13 flat range. And then I think that's sort of the strategy, gets to the 13 flat range over the first 2/3 of the race, and then just hammer it down that last kilometer, the last mile or so, and see how far under you can get there. I don't think they were expecting a 12:47 from Moh Ahmed here, but that's just how it played out. I guess he's in fantastic shape, and having his teammates pace him here pretty much set the stage for that. So here on the left, I'm putting what the target pace is for a potential 13 flat 5,000 meter run. So we can compare it towards their actual splits here on the right of the screen. So you can see the actual splits that I'm getting directly from the feed, and then we'll compare those to prognosticated for a 13 flat run. Here leading right now, we have with the pacing duties Ryan Hill. He himself is a 13:05 5,000 meter runner, so pretty significant in and of itself. A couple of weeks ago, these guys actually ran another intra-squad meet down there in Portland, and he ran 13:15 there. We had some other people like Grant Fisher, who's currently second right now and probably going to take over the pacing duties a little bit later. I recall he, I think, led for maybe 3 or 4 laps before Moh Ahmed took over. But Fisher actually ran a 13:11 then a couple weeks back at the other intra-squad meet. Evan Jaeger, who's on third right now, ran a 13:12, if I remember correctly. So these guys are pretty fit and in shape. And I think the last meet was more for them to sort of go after those personal bests. But this race is really geared towards sort of the upper echelon of the group, which I think right now is Lopez Lemong and Moh Ahmed. These are the guys who can really compete for medals at the world stage right now. Some of these other guys, Evan Jaeger actually is a silver medalist and the steeplechase as well. So he's competing at that level, but not in the sort of like flat distance. He's more sort of a specialist on the steeplechase for the medal sort of contention aspect side of things. So we have here still Ryan Hill, number 1, Grant Fisher, number 2, Evan Jaeger, number 3. We have McGordy, number 4, who is Fisher's teammate over at Stanford, also a pretty fast runner himself. I think he also ran a 13:12 a couple weeks back with the whole team there. And then we have the aforementioned runners, Moh Ahmed in 5th and Lopez Lemong in 6th here. And then we have Woody Kincaid after that, as well as Chris Derrick and Mark Scott towards the back of the pack here. They won't feature so much in this race, I think. So let's take a look at here at the pacing. We'll make sure they're going to be on pace for the 13 flat range that they're looking for. We should have a split here at 3:07, 1,200 meter run. It's pretty good pacing right there. So they're about that sort of 62, 63 range per 400 meters. So that's exactly what they're looking for to get that 13 flat. So really great job by the pacers here. Ryan Hill, Grant Fisher did a fantastic job pacing his teammates. Both of them really hitting the 62, 63 mark on the dot. I think Grant Fisher might have thrown in a 61 somewhere here. But let's take a look at here. They're coming up to 1,400 meters, and really what I'm curious about is what they're going to split for that 1,600 meter mark. So if they're going at that sort of 62, 63 range, probably going to be somewhere in that sort of 408, 409 range for the first 1,600 meters. So let's just keep an eye out for that. Right now, they're looking pretty comfortable. I don't think any of them look like they're laboring. These guys are just coming down from some altitude training, I think. So really ready to hit some fast times. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these other guys at some point go under that 13 flat range as well, maybe in the next couple of years. And yeah, we're going for a 409 target pace here, and they hit that 409 on the dot. So everything's going perfect for them here. Ahmed and Lamong must be thinking to themselves, this is fantastic setup for them to really go after those personal best times. I wonder what Ahmed was thinking before coming in this race. Was he really thinking he was going to drop a sub 1250? There was a post-race interview where he did chat a little bit about that and how he had to get over this mental block to be able to compete with the world's elite and just make it known that he could compete at a sort of a low 1250 type range race or even below that. So I think he probably was even surprised by his time here, but maybe it was something he was working towards and he just came faster than he actually expected to come. So here we have all of the runners pretty relaxed here. I think Grant Fisher's probably going to take over pacing duties in the next lap or two here, if I remember correctly when I first watched this. Ahmed has that beautiful long stride. Lamong is a little bit more of a sort of stronger, tougher built runner. He always seems to be pushing the pace a little bit more. And then we have some runners like Woody Kincaid, who I don't know about his form. He's a little bit odd here. He's always flying with his hair here, and seems like he's just trying to keep hanging on to the pack, and then he outsprints people like he did last year at the Portland 5000, right? So you never know with some of these runners. We see the back of the pack, the last two runners I mentioned, I think that's Chris Derrick and Mark Scott, already starting to drop off here. So this pace is pretty hard. These are pretty strong runners in them themselves. I think Mark Scott has a 13:08 personal best in the 5,000 meters. So this is, to be gapping some of these quality runners already means that the pace is pretty fast, and it's no joke here. So let's see. I think they're going to be coming up on that sort of, what would this be, 2,400 meter mark? So let's see here what the prognosticated pace is going to be. Grant Fisher's now leading the pack, taking over pacing duties. So we're at 2,400 meters with 6:14. Looks to be on pace here. Starting to see a little bit of a distance in the back of the pack with Kincaid starting to fade a little bit, and I'm not sure if Kincaid was actually meant to go with Lamong and Ahmed in this race, because I don't remember seeing Woody actually have a finishing time. The 5,000 meter trial they did a couple weeks ago where Grant Fisher went 13:11. So I'm not sure if he was supposed to go with them today or what's the deal with him, because we haven't really seen a full-on 5,000 meter effort from him, even though most of his teammates have given that over the last couple of weeks. So I would be curious to see what happened. Maybe the pace was just too fast for him. Maybe it just wasn't his day, or perhaps maybe we're going to see him a little bit later on. Maybe they're going to put together another one of these kinds of time trials in the next couple of weeks and have some of the other team members shoot for their own personal best. So, okay, they're at 7:15 for that 2,800 meter mark, and they'll be coming up on that 3,000 point in the race here. So let's keep an eye out on that time here. Ahmed is sitting pretty at number 4 here. Lamong at 5, drafting off some of the big guys in front. Sean McCourty, Evan Yeager, some pretty big dudes here, at least in the running world. So it's pretty good guys to take that draft off of, cut that win and get that time down. So they're at 7:46 for that 3,000 meters, right on pace. I think this is about the time where Grant Fisher might have thrown in a 61 here or there, and then from there Ahmed takes it over and really just hammers it down and blasts some low 60s, and then I think subsequently ends up going under the 60 range for the last couple of laps. So we have here that target pace at the 3,200 meter mark. These guys are pretty beat here. You can see the world-class runners, and for them, you can tell this was already a significant effort. So they hit that 8:17 3200 mark. Unfortunately, the camera work here didn't allow us to see that, but nonetheless, we clocked that 8:17 3200 meter mark, and they're going towards that 3400 meter now. I think Fisher might go. No, I think this is it. Fisher's tapping out here. I think Kincaid's also going a little bit out wide, giving them the space inside. Pace is pretty good. Evan Yeager is going to take him through another lap, I think, and then it's going to be all time for the Ahmed show here. So let's keep an eye out here. Lamong looks like he's, I mean, like I mentioned before, Lamong always looks like he's trying all the races. He has this pretty big wind up with his arms. So I'm not sure if he's already feeling the heat here or if that's just sort of his normal pace, but he definitely does look like he's pushing a little bit more. But now we get a little bit of a frontal view here, and we see that Ahmed also is looking like he's moving. So it definitely wasn't an easy run. I don't think either of these guys could have really gone a lot much faster than whatever they had here and showed in this race here. But now it's a two-man race. When I saw this, I was wondering who's going to win because Lamong is a world-class runner in himself. So this could have turned into a race. And I think Lamong's trying to go with Ahmed here. It even looks like he's going inside. But Ahmed's is going to throw the hammer down and really just blow him out of the water. When I looked back at the splits, actually I saw that Ahmed started to speed up from that 13 flat pace, and he dropped those sort of like 61, 60, 59, consistently cutting off a second from the last couple of laps. And Lamong tried to go with him initially when he started dropping that pace down to that 62, 61, 60 range. But the last two laps were just a little bit too much for Lamong, and he slowed down to about a 64 per lap range for the last two laps. Still managed to come under that 13 flat mark that he was really targeting, but wasn't really able to push down under that sort of like 62, 61 per lap range that he needed to get in the low 1250s. But maybe sometime soon. Lamong is already 35, so not sure how much more time he has. I think these are probably his last Olympic games where at least he has a shot at making the team. Could probably go up in distance, maybe up to the marathon. We've seen some runners, some 5,000 meter runners and 10,000 meter runners go up to the marathon late in their careers and sort of have a second career in that marathon range. So here we have a 10:50 at the 4,200 mark, 800 meters left to go. So even here, you can already see they're under that 13 flat pace. 10:50, if they run a 2 flat here, they're going to get that sort of 12:50 mark. So looking for that 2 flat range. These guys are very capable of running that 2 flat. I think Ahmed might have mentioned in his post-race interview that he saw that sort of 10:50 coming through with 800 meters and thinking, he's run a 2 flat so many times at the end of a race for the last 800 meters. So he knew he had it in the bag to break that 13-minute mark, but wanted to get to that 12:50 mark, and it seemed like a possibility, and he really went for it here. You see the gap forming, substantial gap in just a matter of one lap. Lamong radically slowed down here. I think, like I mentioned, he did 264s for the last 2 laps, so about a 208 range. So he went from that 10:50 up to that 12:58 to finish just under the 13 flat. Okay, now we have the last 400 meters to go here. We see his teammates here cheering him on. Kincaid jogging on the side. I don't think they're really running the race. They finished it on paper, but they were just jogging here, supporting the teammates. Nice, beautiful, long stride. You can see him really pushing, not really straining, keeping nice, compact form, but really striding out, trying to get the maximum from each step. 12:19 here, 200 meters left to go, and so he's going to close here in a 28. Wow, last 200 meters in 28. That's pretty fantastic here. So there you have it. Moh Ahmed running a 12:47 under quarantine situations. Really impressive. Evan Yeager, the rest of the team there. Looking at the time, I don't even think they believed he can go sub 12:50 at this point in time. We didn't really have a reason to think he would go sub 12:50 in this race. I don't even know if I'd call this race. It's more like a time trial to some extent. And then Lamong here. Imagine if he didn't get that sub 13 flat. It would have been devastating. He's been so close so many times, but he finally gets it. And then you can see the jubilation by the full team here coming to congratulate them at the finish line. This is really reminiscent of last year's Portland 5000 when Woody Kincaid went sub 13 at 12:58. Ahmed was the pacer in that instance, and post-race, I remember it's pretty iconic. Go back and watch that video if you haven't. I'll probably put a link down at the bottom of the description of this video so you can take a look at that too. And post that Portland 5000, I think Moh Ahmed was more fired up than anyone else, even though he was just the pacer, just having his teammates break that 13 flat mark. So everything comes full circle for Moh Ahmed. Now it's his turn, putting down a mark of 12:47, cementing him in the world's elites. Can he compete against the Cheptegei's, Barregas, Kejelchas, Gebrowets of the world? I think those would be sort of my top 4 right now at the distance. A couple other runners right there that also have a potential to probably move into that sort of like top 4, top 5 ranking for the 5,000 meter distance, especially as we head towards next year's Olympics. But I don't know, where do you rank Moh Ahmed now? Is he right behind those guys, maybe 5th in the world, maybe in terms of probabilities for an Olympic medal? It's pretty good. All he has to do is position himself with, one lap remaining at the Olympics and could go there, could stick in a fast race. Now we can see he can run in the 12:40, so there's not a lot of runners who can really compete with that at the world-class level. So let's see what happens. Excited to see more runs from the teams, Bowerman Track Club like this, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, at least keeping us busy during this COVID situation. Stay tuned, subscribe, like the video if you want me to do some more commentary like this, and I guess that's it. See you next time.